Man's Opinion. Today I've got something a little different for you. I'm going to discuss the Tony Awards and let you all know what I think of the nominees and at least who I think should win and who will probably win. I'll preface this as I am notoriously poor with predicting winners. Over the years, I have about a 30 to 40% accuracy when it comes to predicting winners, and that's usually because I think more of who I'd vote for versus what I think the actual Tony voters will vote for. So I thought I'd walk through the nominees and give a quick overview of each category. Let's note that if anything I say here sound contradictory to my review of a show, do understand that opinions change over time, which is normal for most people. So before you go, hey, you said you didn't like that, or wait, you said you did like that, well, guess what? I changed my mind. So let's start with Best Book of a Musical. The nominees are David West Reed for & Juliet, David Lindsay Abaire for Kimberly Akimbo, David Thompson and Sharon Washington for New York, New York, Robert Horn for Shucked, and Matthew Lopez and Amber Ruffin for Some Like It Hot. Well, if you follow my show, you know my opinion of & Juliet. The show is awful, so as far as I'm concerned, that shouldn't even be nominated. The same can be said for New York, New York, which is an overwritten mess. Which leaves Kimberly Akimbo, Shucked, and Some Like It Hot, which will be the three shows that will be in contention the rest of the way through when it comes to new musicals. I think Shucked is the weakest of the three. Though good, it's over-dependent on simple jokes to keep the audience engaged, which leaves Some Like It Hot and Kimberly Akimbo. Both are great, and I would be happy if either win, but I think Kimberly Akimbo's got the tighter story and the more engaging characters overall. I think both shows have the potential to win, but my pick is Kimberly Akimbo. As for the Tony voters, it depends on their current temperament. They may find a comfort in a classic musical like Some Like It Hot, but if they're feeling a bit more attuned to a more contemporary musical, then Kimberly Akimbo will win. But then again, Shucked won Best Book at the Outer Critics Circle, so who knows? But my pick is Kimberly Akimbo. And granted, Kimberly Akimbo wasn't up against Shucked at the Outer Critics this year because Kimberly Akimbo was last year's Outer Critics Awards. Next category is Best Original Score, Music and/or Lyrics Written for the Theater. The nominees are Almost Famous, music by Tom Kitt and lyrics by Cameron Crowe and Tom Kitt. Kimberly Akimbo with music by Janine Tesori with lyrics by David Lindsay Abaire. K-pop music and lyrics by Helen Park and Max Vernon. Shucked music and lyrics by Brandy Clark and Shane McAnally. Some Like It Hot, music by Mark Shaman and lyrics by Scott Whitman and Mark Shaman. The category is similar to the previous category. Almost Famous was forgettable, and K-pop, though I enjoyed the music for it, doesn't really matter much as for making the music matter too much for the plot, aside for the sake of it being K-pop music. So those two are out, again leaving us with Shucked, Some Like It Hot, and Kimberly Akimbo. Though I love Kimberly Akimbo and the music and lyrics are moving and uplifting, I wonder if it'll be able to compete with the classic jazzy music style of Some Like It Hot. As for Shucked, as I mentioned in my review, many of the songs don't move the musical forward. So again, my personal pick may be Kimberly Akimbo, but I think Some Like It Hot may come out ahead. Next category is Best Performance by an Actor in a Leading Role in a Play. The nominees are Yahya Abdul-Mateen II and Corey Hawkins as Booth and Lincoln in Susan Laurie Parks' Top Dog Underdog, Sean Hayes as Oscar Levant in Good Night Oscar, Stephen McKinley Henderson as Walter Pop Washington in Between Riverside and Crazy, and Wendell Pierce as Willie Loman in Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman. All five men deserve to be at the dance here, but I am disappointed in the snub of Hiran Abesekera as Pi in Life of Pi. As for everything else, the problem is all these plays, except for Goodnight Oscar, opened and closed months ago, so Hayes' performance is fresh into voters' minds. It'll have to take a particularly remarkable performance to stay in the minds of voters to beat out Hayes. For me, that's Corey Hawkins, whose performance as Lincoln still sits in my mind 8 months later. He was doing things that weren't in the text that elevated his performance, and it was brilliant. But as I said, Hayes as Oscar Levant is fresh in everyone's mind, so though I think Hawkins gave the award-winning performance, Hayes will win. Next award is Best Performance by an Actress in a Leading Role in a Play. The nominees are Jessica Chastain as Nora Helmer in A Doll's House, Jodie Comer as Tessa in Prima Facie, Jessica Hecht as Alice in Summer 1976, and Audra McDonald as Suzanne Alexander in Ohio State Murders. Again, all 4 nominees give great performances, and in any other year, this would be Audra McDonald's 7th Tony Award. But Jodie Comer's performance as defense attorney Tessa, whose world and her view of law is turned upside down after she is raped by a colleague, is fantastic. Her performance is intimately detailed and heart-wrenching. She should win this hands down. The next award is Best Performance of an Actor in a Leading Role in a Musical. The nominees are Christian Borle and J. Harrison Ghee as Joe and Jerry, or Josephine and Daphne, if you will, in Some Like It Hot. Josh Groban as Sweeney Todd in Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Brian Darcy James as the Baker in Into the Woods. Ben Platt as Leo Frank in Parade. And Colton Ryan as Jimmy Doyle in New York, New York. This category is probably going to be the most contentious, as there are people who inexplicably think Josh Groban and Colton Ryan give the best performances of the year when they don't. Both of them had acting issues. Groban wasn't intimidating or scary as Sweeney, and Ryan seemed to be cast for his ability to play a dozen different instruments, not his acting. Brian Darcy James was out the night I saw Into the Woods, so I don't have any comments on him, which leaves Borle, Ghee, and Platt. Platt's performance didn't seem to be as memorable to other people, versus it being memorable to me. So I think he's out, which leaves Borle and Ghee. And when it comes down to those two, Ghee is the easy pick as the jazz musician who discovers more about themselves than expected when hiding from the mob. Unless Darcy James sparks some great memories for voters, but from what I understand, it isn't likely, so Ghee should win. Now let's talk Best Performance by an Actress in a Leading Role in a Musical. The nominees are Annalee Ashford as Mrs. Lovett in Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, Sarah Bareilles as the baker's wife in Into the Woods, Victoria Clark as Kimberly Lavaco in Kimberly Akimbo, Lorna Courtney as Juliet Capulet in And Juliet, and Michaela Diamond as Lucille Frank in Parade. Let's cut to the chase. If Victoria Clark doesn't win, it will be an injustice because she gives the most radiant and inspirational performance of the year. If there's an award that should be a gimme, it's this one. Okay, now for Best Performance by an Actor in a Featured Role in a Play. The nominees are Jordan E. Cooper as Peaches in Ain't No Mo, Samuel L. Jackson as Doker Charles in August Wilson's The Piano Lesson, Arian Moayed as Torvald Helmer in A Doll's House, Brandon Uranowitz as Ludwig Jakobowicz, and Nathan Fishbein in Leopoldstadt, and David Zayas as Eddie in Cost of Living. My instinct here is Brandon Uranowitz for Leopoldstadt, but the more I reflect on it, Sam Jackson was pretty awesome in A Piano Lesson. Cooper also gave a memorable performance in Ain't No Mo. This is going to be a hard pick for me. This may also turn into a what do people remember most situation, which means either Uranowitz or Arian Moayed. If it comes down to those two, I'm inclined to say Uranowitz for the win, though I might want Jackson. So let's just say Uranowitz for the win, my pick and win. Next is Best Performance by an Actress in a Featured Role in a Play. The nominees are Nikki Crawford as Tedra in Fat Tam, Crystal Lewis Perry as Passenger 5 in Ain't No Mo, Miriam Silverman as Mavis Paradis Bryson in The Sign in Sidney Brustein's Window, Katie Sullivan and Kara Young as Annie and Jess respectively in Cost of Living. This is the first nomination of the show The Sign of Sidney Brustein's Window, which is the only show of the season I didn't see because the Outer Critics nomination committee didn't nominate the show for any awards, so by the time it opened, the voters weren't invited to see it. It happens sometimes. This puts me at a disadvantage as to her probability of winning, but looking at the other 4, they are all great performances, and there isn't necessarily one that stands out as more exceptional than the other. But if I was a Tony voter, I think it would come down to Crystal Lucas Perry's superb performance in Ain't No Mo, particularly the dining room sequence, which was brilliant, or come down to Katie Sullivan's performance in Cost of Living as the bitter paraplegic having to accept the help of her estranged husband. Granted, again, these are performances from earlier in the season, and who knows what the Tony voters will remember, which could give Miriam an advantage. Okay, next is Best Performance by an Actor in a Featured Role in a Musical. The nominees are Kevin Calhoun as Peanut in Shucked, Justin Cooley as Seth Wheatus in Kimberly Akimbo, Kevin De La Aguila as Osgood Fielding III, and Pedro Francisco Alvarez in Some Like It Hot, Jordan Donica as Lancelot du Lac in Lerner and Lowe's Camelot, and Alex Newell as Lulu in Shucked. I think this is a category where Shucked has the best opportunity to win a Tony. Calhoun and Newell are hysterical in the show, and if either of them win, I would be happy. If I had my choice, though, it would go to Kevin De La Aguila, who literally elevates the entire musical Some Like It Hot when he arrives as Osgood Fielding III. All right, last acting category. We have Best Performance by an Actress in a Featured Role in a Musical. The nominees are Julia Lester as Little Red Riding Hood in Into the Woods, Ruthie Ann Miles as the Beggar Woman in Sweeney Todd the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, Bonnie Milligan as Aunt Deborah in Kimberly Akimbo, Natasha Yvette Williams as Sweet Sue in Some Like It Hot, and Betsy Wolfe as Anne Hathaway and April in And Juliet. As with Brian Darcy James, Julia Lester was out the night I was in attendance for Into the Woods, so I can't comment on her performance. But really, I think Bonnie Milligan as the insanely funny Aunt Deborah is a lock, unless the voters give Ruthie Ann Miles credit for the mostly hidden role of the Beggar Woman. So let's move on to some design awards with Best Scenic Design of a Play. The nominees are Miriam Boother for Prima Facie, Tim Hatley and Andrzej Goulding for Life of Pi. My apologies for mispronouncing that if I did. Rachel Hawk for Goodnight Oscar, Richard Hudson for Leopoldstadt, and Dane Laffrey and Lucy McKinnon for A Christmas Carol. There's some great work here. Those who heard my reviews of Prima Facie, Life of Pi, and Goodnight Oscar know that these designs are probably my favorites of the season, but Tim Hatley and Andrzej Goulding should win for their imaginative vision of bringing to life a steamship and then developing the stage into a life raft that rotates, rises, and lowers on stage. So Life of Pi should get the win here. On to Best Scenic Design of a Musical. The nominees are Beowulf Boritt for New York, New York, Mimi Lean for Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street, Michael Yergin and 59 Productions for Lerner and Lowe's Camelot, and John Pask for both Shucked and Some Like It Hot. At first blush, this should be a slam dunk for Beowulf, with the classic hand-painted backdrops that look as real as projections, the meticulously designed New York City fire escapes, and the finale of the band rising from the pit. The design is one of his best. But Mimi Lean's Sweeney Todd set is exquisite, and Scott Pask's Shucked design has an incredibly practical quality. It should be Beowulf, but Lean and Pask could make a surprise win. Let's look at costumes now with Best Costume Design in a Play. The nominees are Tim Hatley, Nick Barnes, and Finn Caldwell for Life of Pi, Dominique Von Hill for Fat Ham, Bridget Reifenstuhl for Leopoldstadt, and Emilio Sosa for both Ain't No Mo and Goodnight Oscar. There are delightful costumes in all these shows, but several shows like Leopoldstadt, Goodnight Oscar, and Life of Pi all have more or less direct period designs. This is in no way a disparagement for those shows. They are great, but I think the more fantastic qualities of costuming for Ain't No Mo and Fat Tam open up a bit more inventiveness for the designers, which I think will give them an edge. And if I'm to pick one, it'd be Emilio Sosa's costumes for Ain't No Mo, which I think are the most imaginative of the season. This, of course, leads us to Best Costume Design of a Musical. The nominees are Greg Barnes for Some Like It Hot, Susan Hilferty for Parade, Jennifer Muller for Lerner and Lowe's Camelot, Clint Ramos and Sophia Choi for K-pop, Paloma Young for And Juliet, and Donna Zakowska for New York, New York. Okay, this one is a bit of a pick. Some Like It Hot and New York, New York are fantastic K-pop and Juliet have colorful, smart designs that fit the pop themes of their shows. There's something classy and brilliant about Greg Barnes's work with Some Like It Hot, and I think that should be the winner. On to lighting now. The nominees for Best Lighting Design of a Play are Neil Austin for Leopoldstadt, Natasha Chivers for Prima Facie, John Clark for A Doll's House, Bradley King for Fat Ham, Tim Lutkin for Life of Pi, Jen Shriver for Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman, and Ben Stanton for Christmas Carol. As awesome and atmospheric the lighting is for all these works, this should be a sure thing for Tim Lutkin and Life of Pi. The whole storm sequence alone should give every design category a win, but who knows what will happen. I raved about the lighting for Prima Facie and Death of a Salesman, and A Christmas Carol also has great work. I think the obvious choice is Life of Pi, but this could be a surprise. Let's look at Best Lighting Design of a Musical. The nominees are Ken Billington for New York, New York, Lap Chi Chu for Lerner and Lowe's Camelot, Heather Gilbert for Parade, Howard Hudson for And Juliet, and Natasha Katz for both Some Like It Hot and Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street. I would like to believe the contenders here are Billington and Katz. Billington's lighting for New York, New York elevates the already brilliant scenic design by Beowulf Borwitt. The Manhattan Henge scene alone is a piece of musical beauty. On the other hand, Katz's design for Sweeney Todd is appropriately grim and minimal to have shadows help define the environment. I wouldn't be surprised if either won, but if I was a voter, I'd lean toward Billington and New York, New York. Okay, time for Best Sound Design of a Play. The nominees are Jonathan Deans and Taylor Williams for Ain't No Mo, Carolyn Downing for Life of Pi, Joshua D. Reed for Christmas Carol, and Ben and Max Ringham for both A Doll's House and Prima Facie. I think the top three are Ain't No Mo, Life of Pi, and A Christmas Carol. The sound design to make the animals in Life of Pi come alive may be why I think it's my personal choice, but there's some fantastic haunting work by Reed for A Christmas Carol, and Deans and Williams also have some excellent scenes to work with to create some fantastic effects. So Life of Pi is my choice, but won't shirk at Ain't No Mo or A Christmas Carol winning. Let's go to Best Sound Design of a Musical. The nominees are Kai Harada for New York, New York, John Shivers for Shucked, Scott Lehrer and Alex Newman for Into the Woods, Gareth Owen for And Juliet, and Nevin Steinberg for Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street. It's almost a no-brainer that Steinberg should win for Sweeney Todd. All the other shows have excellent design, but Sweeney depends on more than getting the music and voices right and deals with sound effects that the others don't have to work with. That's it with design, so let's go to the directors. The nominees for Best Director of a Play are Sahim Ali for Fat Ham, Joe Bonney for Cost of Living, Jamie Lloyd for A Doll's House, Patrick Marber for Leopoldstadt, Stevie Walker-Webb for Ain't No Mo, and Max Webster for Life of Pi. Well, I wasn't a fan of Doll's House, so that's out. Cost of Living, Fat Ham, and Ain't No Mo are all great, but I think it'll come down to Patrick Marber and Max Webster. It'll depend on if the Tony voters prefer Webster's ability to choreograph the puppetry with Hiran Abe-Sekera, or Marber's ability to make dozens of characters come together in a very complex, multi-generational narrative with Leopoldstadt. Personally, I think it should be Patrick Marber with the win. Let's look at the nominees for Best Director of a Musical. They are Michael Arden for Parade, Lear de Bessonnet for Into the Woods, Casey Nicholaw for Some Like It Hot, Jack O'Brien for Shucked, and Jessica Stone for Kimberly Akimbo. I think this will come down to Casey Nicholaw or Jessica Stone, but Jack O'Brien may be a dark horse, and if the vote gets split between Nicholaw and Stone, Shucked could get the win. My personal choice is Jessica Stone for Kimberly Akimbo. I wouldn't be upset if any of the three won, but Stone's work in making Kimberly Akimbo come alive and believable was a bit more successful than Nicholaw, but not by much. Let's look at some dancing. The nominees for Best Choreography are Stephen Hoggett for Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street, Casey Nicholaw for Some Like It Hot, Susan Stroman for New York, New York, and Jennifer Weber for both And Juliet and K-pop. If Casey Nicholaw doesn't win Best Director, he should get the win for the meticulously choreographed Some Like It Hot. The door sequence in the second act alone should be enough to lock in the win, and the Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers homage is gorgeous. I think it should beat out Susan Stroman's dazzling choreography for New York, New York by a hair. Not because Stroman's choreography is any worse, but because some of her best choreography go to numbers that don't do much for the book of the show, like the fantastic construction workers tap number. It looks great and is a marvel to watch, but the number could be cut and the show story wouldn't really lose anything. Now for Best Orchestrations. The nominees are Bill Sherman and Dominic Falacaro for And Juliet, John Clancy for Kimberly Akimbo, Jason Howland for Shucked, Charlie Rosen and Brian Carter for Some Like It Hot, and Daryl Waters and Sam Davis for New York, New York. I think this category will come down to the two bigger orchestrated shows, Some Like It Hot and New York, New York, and based on other awards results, Some Like It Hot may come out the winner. Both are big jazzy scores with hefty music ensembles, but based on results in other awards shows, I think Some Like It Hot's going to come out with the win. Okay, time for the real big ones. Let's start with Best Play. The nominees are Ain't No Mo, Between Riverside and Crazy, Cost of Living, Fats Ham, and Leopoldstadt. That's right, another snub for Life of Pi. Not that I think it deserves to win, but it should be here in lieu of maybe Cost of Living or Ain't No Mo. Anyway, the winner should and will be Leopoldstadt. It's an amazing piece with an excellently directed ensemble with a story that unfortunately doesn't stop ever being relevant. Tom Stopper described one of his best works, and we're the blessed recipients of his brilliance. Now for Best Musical, the nominees are And Juliet, Kimberly Akimbo, New York, New York, Shucked, and Some Like It Hot. If you watched my review of And Juliet, you know I'd probably prefer Bad Cinderella being nominated over it, and I don't think New York is all that great either. The other three are all fantastic. I think Kimberly Akimbo is the best of the bunch, but with Some Like It Hot being the newer show and fresher in voters' minds, we could end up with that winning instead, which I wouldn't be all that upset with. Shucked has captured the hearts of Broadway audiences and again could get a dark horse win if the vote is split between Kimberly Akimbo and Some Like It Hot. I'd be a little disappointed by that, as the songs from Shucked aren't quite to par with the other two, so Kimberly Akimbo is my pick to win, but Some Like It Hot has just as much of a chance here, with an outside possibility of Shucked. Okay, Best Revival of a Play. The nominees are August Wilson's The Piano Lesson, A Doll's House, The Sign in Sidney Brustein's Window, and Susan Laurie Parks' Top Dog Underdog. Oy, with this one, nothing is really sticking to me as an absolute incredible show. Granted, as I stated before, I didn't see The Sign in Sidney Brustein's Window, so it could very well be better than the three other nominees. If I just look at the other three, my gut pick is Top Dog Underdog. It's gritty, unshirking, and powerful, though I do feel it is overlong with redundant text that could have been easily cut. Though I love the play A Doll's House, I didn't like this production, and The Piano Lesson, though I enjoyed it, didn't make any major waves and didn't leave the same lasting impression on me like Top Dog Underdog did. Okay, last one, Best Revival of a Musical. The nominees are Into the Woods, Lerner and Lowe's Camelot, Parade, and Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street. If Sweeney hasn't won anything by this point, it might not win here, but I think it's the best revival of the season. Parade had design issues, Camelot was a bit of a narrative mess, and as much as I loved Into the Woods, it's long since moved on, though their Milky White was awesome and the cast was a pleasure to watch. I think the voters, though, may go for Parade. It's not my pick, but who asked me anyway, right? So that's it. My thoughts and picks on the Tony Awards. Even though I may disagree with some of the nominees, I congratulate them all for their nominations, and I congratulate the winners, whomever they will be, yes, even if And Juliet wins. I have strong opinions, but I don't ever intend to be a vindictive ass about it. This is an opinion show, and everyone is welcome to have one, as long as you stay respectful. If I spoke poorly about a show you absolutely love, that's fine. You go on and keep loving that show. It's important to you, and that's more important than my opinion or anyone else's. Just, if you decide to speak in that show's defense, be respectful. Anyway, feel free to share your predictions. You may very well do better than I, as, like I said, I am not very good at predicting these kinds of things. I have a tendency to let my own opinion face the reality of what other people think. Still, it's fun nonetheless. So this has been One Man's Opinion. Feel free to support my channel by becoming a patron over on Patreon. I'll leave a link in the description. Any little bit helps. You can also support my channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing, and click the notification bell to be alerted to any future posts. Thank you for watching, and I will see you at the theater.